Welcome to FullTiltPoker.net's $1 million cash game. 8 players, over 40 million in tournament winnings at this table. What a treat we have here. The button is in front of Phil Ivey.
Why did I fold my queen 9 and my king 9? That would have made the little guttable jack.
Patrick Antonius is taking a break.
600 to call.
I'm going to fold.
So it's Lederer in the big blind. Gus Hansen first to act, he folds.
Fold. Fold.
Dwan playing quite quiet for him. Phil Hellmuth reaching for his chips.
And he's in the cutoff seat with pocket 4s.
16.
Oh, yeah.
And he is going to raise this up.
1600 to call.
He gets a caller from Phil Ivey.
Really want me to?
Fold. Total bet 1600.
And Lederer, after winning that big pot, picks up a big hand.
66.
66.
5,000 more to me.
Total bet 6,600.
Guys, if Phil Hellmuth loses this pot,
Cool.
this could be a really, really good game.
The re-raise from Ali.
Really, really good.
And we've got
game,
action here.
Already the way he said 66, there was a little bit of steam in his voice. Might be the only one noticing, but that's what I do as a
I'm
poker
really
player.
steaming this hand.
I notice these small things.
Really
so.
steaming.
You do pay attention to little things.
I am
Yeah,
tilting.
yeah, that's important. I learned that from you, Mr. Ivey.
Check.
Just because you're
Check.
the best at that.
Hellmuth still in the lead with 2
Bet
pair.
6,000.
Not much there for anybody else. Pot is nearly $27,000. But you can sure that Hellmuth wants to take this one down now. Obviously, his pair can be counterfeited very easily.
Yeah, it's quite a small bet into the size of the pot. There's a little bit of a feeler.
12.
Raising to 12.
Minimum re-raise from Ali.
Almost as if he had pocket kings in his hand or nothing at all, right?
At least an ace-king kind of hand. These small raises really do put the pressure back on. Squirming in his seat. Looks like Dwan had a late night last night online.
Hellmuth trying to put the puzzle together here.
Pretty scary making it 12, knowing that somebody's going to look straight into his soul.
You might want to skip the raises for that.
You might want to just lay low because of that. You know I still love you, Mr. Hellmuth.
No worries, Gussie. I don't even mind a little commentary. It's all right. I don't even mind. What was that? 6 more. You flopped 8s full? Ellie, what do you have, Ellie? 8's full?
No. Oh, no, 15 you mean?
All right.
Cool.
Well, he's made the call.
Yeah, Hellmuth
I
is
thought he
going
was squirming so much he was never going to call that one, but he did.
5 of hearts on the turn. Changes nothing. Pot is nearly 45,000 in chips. And if you're in Ellie's position here, you've been called. It's a tough spot to fire again, isn't it?
Well, Phil looks so uncomfortable.
Betting 5,000. Fold.
Now,
Didn't actually like such a small bet from Phil. It's almost like opening up the betting for very little reward, but as it happens, it's protected his pocket
that's
fours.
the way to play the game.
And Phil Hellmuth reads him right.
I did not read your book, and
You read my book on tight play, Gus. I know you did.
I will admit, I'm not happy to say so on camera, but I actually don't intend to either. But the good news is I probably should do it. But I just haven't been to the bookstore for a long time. Apology accepted.
Have you read his book, Phil?
Gus's book is terrific.
3, Jack.
Check,
2, check.
Normally I would take that as an insult, but
Nothing
I know
for
that you don't know I have a book out.
either player.
Well, there's something there now for Ellie.
1,600.
He's made the wheel. He's got an ace to 5 straight.
Cool.
Actually, I probably have a copy. Or
And Hellmuth, he's picked up the flush draw.
Don't worry about me. I don't want one.
King.
And now he's caught the king. That could be a very costly river for Phil Hellmuth.
Have you ever read a book in your whole life? You can't lie on TV.
And it's a $6,000 bet from a Lederer over to Hellmuth, and I don't see how he gets away from this one.
And by the way,
You ever read Dr. Seuss? How's it doing? How's your book doing?
it's good.
I mean, how's it selling?
What?
How's it selling?
The king does, of course, complete the spade
better
flush.
than any other poker board will ever do.
Really?
I don't know. I think so. You are I mentioned at the end my biggest mistake in the tournament concerns you.
What?
My biggest mistake in the it's from the Aussie Millions that I won. In the end, I write about my biggest mistake in the tournament. It's against you.
Ellie, what do you have,
The
Ellie?
fact that I didn't cross-book with you in the tournament. That's written at the end. That's the biggest mistake of the tournament. Because we started at the same table.
Ellie, what's the deal, Ellie? I really can't fold this hand.
Cost me 1.2. What can I do? I'm just such a nit.
I might have played better.
That's true.
I might not have bluffed off all my chips. I promise I
There's
won't
a
give you
lot.
any
There's
reaction.
a lot of paragraphs about you.
From now on.
Very positive.
I want to fold, Ellie, but you might have ace jack,
You wrote the whole thing?
which is no
What?
good.
Probably also the only poker book where actually a poker player wrote the whole book.
It's sort of like
How many
their
pages?
name on the front
What?
and someone else wrote it.
300 something? No, I know actually in the English
Hellmuth
version
does
it's
call
like,
this. Tough hand to get away from, obviously.
290 or something
Can't beat
like that.
spades, but I think his the curiosity got the best of him.
This down for 6,500.
Yeah, I think if that king doesn't come, if he catches the 10, he might get away from it. But I think he's decided I
you
can't
had
pass
it.
this hand.
I knew you had it, and I still called.
Really only 3 hands in the deck that are going to cost him money. Of course, if the diamond comes off, he
made a
will
tiny
get
bet
paid
out
from
of
Ellie, and
flush
Ellie
draw
takes
call.
down a big pot.
King came. Knew you had it. Huh.
And of course, Ellie Lederer
At least some reading well.
from Israel now calls Vegas his home,
That's all that matters.
and he is up over $67,000 today.
$21.
2,100 total bet. Fold. Fold.
And Patrick Antonius has
Fold.
bought in for another
Fold.
$100,000, and we have $1.5 million at this table, just constantly growing.
Fold.
Now Hellmuth raised it up in early position, actually under the gun with a big ace,
Cool.
and he's going to get called by Tom Dwan.
He didn't bluff the guys. Hard to believe, right? Hard to believe?
Dwan with the gut shot.
They got a
Hellmuth
history.
with a pair of queens.
They got a history, these two players, from the Heads Up Championship this year, the World Heads Up, and they got it all in. Phil had aces, and Tom had 2 10s and hit a 10, and that was all she wrote.
3,600. 3,600. Called.
Of course, some bad blood between these two players.
Yeah, that Heads Up Championship weighing heavily on Phil's mind.
And that 3 of clubs changes a lot here. Dwan now has the gut shot, has also picked up the flush draw. How does he play this? We know he's got a bunch of weapons in his arsenal, a lot of moves.
Yeah, so gifted, Tom Dwan, like a young sensation, and Phil Hellmuth, almost an old stager these days. It'd be interesting to see
if Gus decided to put you on up and down.
I know Phil doesn't want to give up on this pot, but Tom bets this.
How much?
10,300.
10,300 is the bet.
Makes a nice hefty bet there. 10,300 into a $12,000 pot.
I tell you, this is shaping up to be a phenomenal pot because
But you got to realize that, I mean, Hellmuth can't beat a king, he can't beat Jack 10, really can't beat anything except a bluff, which is what Dwan's doing here.
I mean, he beats like Queen Jack, Queen 10, 10-9. They're the sort of hands that he is beating.
It was pretty simple because put you on 5-6.
You could have ace 10 of clubs.
You have the bottom hand of the stack. I thought
You got to love the dynamic of his hand, and Hellmuth throws it away, and is Dwan going to show? No, he doesn't show. He takes down the pot quietly.
600 to call. Call.
We're at the FullTiltPoker.net $1 million cash game. Patrick Antonius has bought in for another $200,000.
1 minute per day. You know what? That's a good idea.
And there it is. Those black chips, $25,000 each. You'd think for $200,000 you'd get more than 8 chips.
6,600.
Yeah, it seems like you've been cheated a little bit.
Fold.
Flat call from David Benjamin. Also a call from Tom Dwan. Better raise it up
It's meant for people like Gus and John Fan.
from the steamer, Phil Hellmuth.
Well, you know Tom Dwan is going to play that hand, 5-3 of spades. Probably his favorite hand right now.
And the raise up from Phil Hellmuth, Jack 5 offsuit.
Well, Hellmuth has a little bit of a reputation for steaming in cash games.
Certainly looks like it from the evidence right now, but this is quite a big bet.
I like that 5-minute clock. Where it's like a
6,000 raise. I don't know whether Tom's going to call even with his hand at the moment.
That'd be pretty cool. And everybody, when they buy in the tournament, they get their little 50-cent 5-minute time bank. And as soon as that 1 minute's up,
Got about $2.5 million on the table now.
and it counts down.
Of course, Hellmuth reloaded with 100,000. Antonius reloaded with 200,000.
Well, durrrr calling with his 5-3. Actually dominated by the Jack 5. I bet he wouldn't have thought that.
Final tables where you only get an hour and 15-minute levels, they're taking 10 minutes a hand. I mean, they're destroying. Like,
Well, he's got in front with the 3.
Yeah, he's outflopped him.
I've had a 5-minute decision maybe twice in my whole life. John Pham has one 20 times.
And actually, Hellmuth is in bad shape right now, although he's got position.
11,000.
And he might be able to take this one away. We'll see how Dwan plays it, though. And it's like an entirely different Hellmuth, isn't it?
Yeah, he's totally opened up. Tom calls.
And how many bullets can Hellmuth shoot?
Yeah, that's going to be the question right now. The 3 doesn't look too strong if he keeps firing. And that ace is going to be a bit of a scare card for Tom. The only thing it does give him is it gives him a straight out.
Of course, Hellmuth has the same straight draw. But for Hellmuth to win this pot, needs a jack. And is Hellmuth going to continue firing at this pot? Something we haven't seen earlier is continued aggression from Phil Hellmuth. And he bets 26,000 into a $37,000 pot. I don't see how Tom Dwan can continue.
Well, he's probably sitting there thinking he's got 9 cards. If he thinks 5s and 3s are good, he thinks his 4's probably good. He's pretty sure his 3's probably good. If he's up against aces and queens, that of them.
I remember Tom Dwan is down nearly $200,000 as well. Might he be reaching here? How many bullets can Phil Hellmuth fire?
Well, he needs to fire one more.
I mean, look at that flop, Queen 3 deuce. Not many draws out there.
At least not many draws that didn't get hit by the ace. What hand does he think he can get Tom Dwan to lay down?
At this point, I mean, you have to put Tom on at least a queen, and you figure there's no way he's going to lay it down. The pot is nearly $90,000.
Looks like he just does not want to leave those chips behind.
Well, he's put his children in the pot and doesn't want to abandon them. And he's got about, I'm trying to work it out, it looks like he's got about 40,000 there. Is 40,000 enough?
I think he's got a bit more than that. I think he's actually got more like 60 or 70,000. There's 2 black chips.
Oh, indeed, you're right. It is 2 black chips. So he's got about 65,000. Is that enough to get it done?
Well, we know that he's up against a 3. It may well be enough to get it done.
I'm all in.
And look at this. What courage.
He shoves it all across the line.
Oh,
And
come on,
Tom
Phil,
Dwan,
show it. Come on, Phil, show the cards. And he does.
He shows the bluff.
Wow.
He's absolutely desperate to show that one.
Famous group Jackson 5.
Once again, over $2.6 million at the table. Only 79,000 of which is in this man's hand.
I have to take the medication soon. I know. I got to see that. It's on your mic.
Action over to the mouth.
I told you that. I told you that. I got a bad phone.
2,000.
Up to 2,000 from Tom Dwan. Well, he's just re-raised with deuce 3. This time he picks up the aces. And it might look a bit like a squeeze play against Tom Dwan. Thinking he's trying to steal in the cutoff position.
Pass.
Well, Dwan's got a real hand, but we both know that
So's
Dwan could have
Phil.
any 2 cards.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone at that table knows that he could. Bet and a raise, and Chris sitting there with ace-10.
Well, I think this is why Chris Ferguson is thinking about this. He knows that Dwan doesn't need a hand to play this. He also knows that Phil doesn't need a hand to re-raise. Ace-10 could be the best hand here, which is why he calls.
I still find it strange, Chris, calling this. It's not really how he's made his money in this game. He's usually been fairly certain he's got the best hand when he's put his money in the middle. We've seen Tom play some hands really fast, but he's going to see a flop with the 8s. If he can catch one, he could get an awful lot of money off Phil.
Jack 2, 6.
Well, it's a pretty safe flop for Mr. Hellmuth.
Check.
I have to agree with you, though. I would imagine Chris Ferguson, I would have expected a re-raise or a fold if he thought he was good. Ace-10 offsuit, definitely a tough hand to play out of position.
Check.
And how does Phil play this hand? Phil Hellmuth.
Probably a 13,000 bet, something like that.
2 spades out there. You'd never give the free card, would you?
Well, he could do, but it's a very dangerous play. That's what he decided to do.
A little bit of a trap here, huh?
He's probably going to get a bet off Tom Dwan on the turn. I think Chris is going to just keep checking.
Check.
Well, Phil is trying to play the kid. I mean, you'd almost expect to see either pocket jacks in Phil's hand or nothing at all, maybe ace-king. You wouldn't expect aces in this case.
No, definitely not.
Tom Dwan taking the bait, and you can't blame him.
No,
I think most players
he
would
probably feels
think,
like he's protecting his 8s right now.
2,200.
The big question is, how does Phil play this? Does he leave the kid up front?
It's a strange line that Phil Hellmuth has taken.
Call.
And how difficult is it to play Phil Hellmuth?
Well, I've only played him in a couple of tournaments myself. He's a very, very tricky player. He's usually at his most dangerous when he's not talking, and that's what he's doing right now.
Well, the 5 of diamonds changes nothing. I mean, there's no reason to think Tom Dwan, and does he think maybe he's up against 9s or 10s?
Yeah, there's a good chance he thinks that he might be losing.
Check.
The underpairs have probably hit. There's only really 7s, 4s and 3s. Hard to make a value bet here, but he might do it almost as a stop bet. Does he think he's going to get a call from Ace-King?
Well, the action is over to Hellmuth. And he
Hellmuth
bets
50,000 into this pot. He's trying to make it look like a bluff with an oversized bet and a good lay down there from Tom. Trying to be tricky, Phil.
Well, I think Phil maximized the value in this hand. I really do. I mean, I think he got that bet from Dwan on the turn. But Dwan is too good of a player to pay him off. Phil Hellmuth's still down $18,000. But of course, that tricky play, one of the reasons why he has 11 World Series bracelets.
Mike, what did you steam at 8 more thousand?
Action on Matusow.
That was crazy.
I don't want to start playing at ring because then the grinders can be too knitted.
But I did steam in with it. I know.
Pass.
Because I was mad at myself because
I know.
I had the best hand and I folded.
Back to Tom Dwan.
You might have had 2 aces with the ace of clubs.
Pass.
Why wouldn't you re-raise it?
Well, let me draw for my 3 for free.
I call so what was playing it.
Well, Phil looks like he's playing fast and loose, but he's picked up aces followed by kings. He's just flat calling with them this time. I think he feels like playing tricky's the way forward for him.
I chopped the pot, but this is the hand I played.
Phil's flat called on the button. I can't imagine. Well, he's making up the 300, Chris, even with the 7 deuce. I never thought I'd see the day when Chris Ferguson was playing 7 deuce when he didn't absolutely have to.
Well, he's flopping open in this straight draw here.
Check.
And with the 7, it's actually the better side of it as well.
Exactly.
2,500.
Bet from Phil.
He flopped no outs.
2,500 into slightly over 3,000.
Now that's why I love Peter.
Ivey in there with Jack 4 offsuit, obviously not playing the cards, playing his position. He has the button.
And we've almost forgot that Phil Hellmuth is sitting there with kings.
Well, I think that's exactly what Phil wants us to do. And he wants everybody at the table to do as well.
Problem with Phil is he's got no idea where he is in this pot right now.
Ace.
Well, he's behind now, if there was any indication there.
Chris catching us straight, see how he plays this.
Check.
How typical. You got the kings and you decide to bet it as soon as the ace comes down.
Well, I think this is kind of a blockish bet. The pot was 10,000. He's betting 3,000 here, right?
Exactly. He's trying to find out whether his kings are still good. Be interesting to see whether he induces a bluff from Phil.
I played Zigman for 30 minutes. I beat him at 32,000.
I mean, part of the reason you make that $3,000 bet is to get a free showdown as well.
Exactly.
Heads up is a little bit more.
And it kind of looks like a blockish bet. And Phil Ivey might take the bait here. And of course, Chris Ferguson doing what he always does, just kind of hiding in the grass and waiting for the monsters. Well, Phil Ivey's going to think better of it. But I'm sure Chris Ferguson's not going anywhere.
Be careful.
He's got the wheel.
The sweet swing can be painful.
Question is, how does he get some more money off Phil? I think that's going to be very difficult. There's 2 flush draws out there.
But between the 2 of these players, we have 2 world champions, 16 World Series of Poker bracelets, and Hellmuth knows he's dead, doesn't he?
I think that's going to be the end of this pot.
Of course, Chris Ferguson wearing his trademark cowboy hat.
Live straddle on this one, 1,200 from Phil Ivey. Patrick Antonius, who's been very quiet so far, despite being stuck $250,000. He raises it up to 4,000.
Lesser players might press and steam if they're down $250,000. Not Antonius.
Not at all. Well, Phil Hellmuth with ace-king.
Cool.
Calls, and so does Phil Ivey very quickly. It's going to be these three to the flop.
5, 10, 8.
10 high board. That's good.
Check.
But Patrick, not much for anyone else.
Now, when Phil loses this hand, are we going to get more moaning out of the poker, Brat?
Nothing would surprise me from Phil Hellmuth.
Pot is $13,000.
10,000.
And Antonius is
Is
going to
today a
bet.
Thursday? Confused. Is today a Thursday?
Like we know what day it is. Anybody here know that? I bet you there's not one person here knows what day it is.
I mean, come on.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go ahead and guess. I think it's Thursday, but I don't have a clue.
I don't know.
No, it can't be. Well, yeah, it is Thursday.
Phil Hellmuth shows the ace-king, folds it. Phil Ivey folds as well, and Antonius takes down a pot.
Wait for Patrick to be here.
Until he makes the jack on the river.
And apparently the button is in front of the empty seat.
Thank you.
We'll do it. We'll do it next time.
Okay, 12 under straddle.
They said they want to wait till Patrick gets back, so no straddle.
No.
No, Chris.
So in fact, Chris Ferguson actually has the button here.
Well, you know what? I haven't looked at my hand.
Wait till we get some Chris.
But it's not mandatory.
Benjamin is going to straddle this pot.
1200 straddle.
And the action is on Mr. Tom Dwan.
Just because I had it, and
Yes.
I just will feel terrible if somebody has a hand
And he's raising it up.
4,000 to play.
for him.
4,000 to bet.
Not open for 4,000 when somebody's
12.
12 to play.
Instant re-raise from Phil Hellmuth to 12,000.
Pass. Fold.
still making it
That's a
12,000.
bit of a raise with King 10, playing the player, I think, as much as his cards.
I had Durr's favorite hand from yesterday.
Yeah, these players are definitely on to Tom Dwan.
Fold.
And after having spoken to Tom Dwan, I have to say, a delightful young man.
Yeah, real nice chap. (9-7) for Tom.
Patrick Antonius coming back to the table.
How many times are we going to knock this thing over? At least I got rid of that glass bottle. Is anyone drinking it? I'm drinking this bottle.
Overseeing what's going on.
Pot.
Pot is $18,800. It's $8,000 back to Dwan. Does he want to play this hand out of position?
Well, I think he's going to. I think it's just a question of whether he wants to take control of the pot or not. Looks like that's what he's trying to do.
29,300 total.
Oh, and Hellmuth takes off the glasses. He's going to stare this kid down and figure it all out.
Well, he's going to try and figure it all out. I'm willing to bet he doesn't put him on 9-7.
Well, this is poker. Dwan raises with garbage. Hellmuth re-raises with really not much of a hand. And then Dwan 3-bets it here. The pot is $44,100 back to Hellmuth. And we're talking about another, what, another 20,000 back to Hellmuth?
Yep. And he's not going to know what he can catch.
Zip! Go to the glasses.
Well, who's the bigger man? Helmuth lays it down, and Dwan, he shows the 11-time bracelet winner how to play some poker.
You had a high-fixed cash game. Y'all look
Yeah,
like
doubling the big blind to 1,200.
having much fun.
So now there's a 3, a 6, and a 12.
Boys and girls.
4,500 to play.
Phil keeping the pressure on, making it 4,500 with a weak ace.
Entertainment value.
And Phil Hellmuth with K.
I'm sure one of you grabs
Kojak.
chips. Whatever, decide to play good.
Helmuth also down $47,000.
I think I brought this.
Ivey has the most chips at the table. He's got 846,000 tables.
Fold.
Chips, that is.
That's a little bit tight for Phil. Looks like he's decided to take a little bit of a break from mixing it up.
My
Fold.
full escapade of playing her with
Fold.
When I get back, I'm going to go
Fold.
play no limit
Fold.
every day for 2 weeks to get my stuff back.
Just these two again.
Cool.
8-4
Whatever. Not even about the money.
and ace-6.
Queen 4-7.
Well, a 4 for Tom. But unsurprising with that kind of a hand, he's flopped bottom pair. But nothing much for Phil.
Check.
Obviously, that's the problem with a hand like 8-4. When you do flop a pair, it's often bottom pair or middle pair.
6,000.
Playing that hand out of position can be tough, but if anybody can do it.
Yeah, it's Tom. Very fast and loose 6,000 bet from Phil.
Well, we've seen this before from Phil Hellmuth. He plays many different ways. He always mixes up his game. It's one of the reasons it's so tough to play against him.
8.
Oh, well.
Well, that's going to make it a little bit easier to call any more bets by Tom Dwan.
Check.
Hellmuth with the gut shot. Needs a 5 to win this pot. He only has 3 outs.
Check.
Pot is now $22,700 to the river.
Last card 9.
That 9, no help. Possibly the only way Tom's going to get paid here is with the check. Let Phil try and bluff it.
You look at that flop, the only draw really out there was 5-6, and that would have gotten there. And after Dwan takes this pot down, you can't imagine that Hellmuth will be happy.
Especially if he gets to see Tom's hand.
Looks like a massive overbet. Are those actually blue chips? I thought for a second they were black chips.
19,300 for that.
It is a big bet, though. Nearly a pot size.
Fold.
Pretty easy pass for Phil there. I think if he'd have checked it, he might have had a better chance of getting some money. He doesn't know that, of course.
Hindsight 2020, and Phil Hellmuth takes another hit to his stack.
It's all been clarified.
I want to get booked at this table from here on out, Mike.
No, because then you start. Whenever anybody
You're
books
gonna
you,
book
you
me from
actually
here?
play better.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't ever book him. He actually plays better when you book him. Don't do it. Don't do it. I object to any booking.
You got a deal.
Now, looking ahead, we know that Phil Hellmuth has really been pushing his cards, pushing his edges, and even when he doesn't have an edge. Is this a spot where you expect him to maybe push in his straddle?
Well, if he feels that someone's weak and trying to steal his blind and he gets kind of half a hand, you could see him go all in that kind of spot.
You could win
I've watched this guy one.
$1200.
Something's wrong with my hand. All of a sudden I got. I watched him, biggest donkey ever, and then he gets booked, and then he plays the biggest in it and doesn't put one bad chip in for hours. I object to booking. Now, cross book, you guys could cross book. No, that I don't object to cross booking, but booking I object.
Wait, I have an option of raising, right?
It looks like Hellmuth's going to raise this one.
Let's see what I'm going to do here.
Dwan with the queen 4.
I'm going to raise 3,000.
3,000.
Not sure if it's a big enough raise to get it done, though.
I can't raise more than that. He limped in the 1 hole. He limped in the 1 hole with aces before. I'm really afraid.
Well, he's just building a pot right now.
One thing I know for sure is all you idiots are not afraid of anything. I've never seen anybody with less fear than you guys. You guys are like the most fearless people in the world. I don't think for a certain amount of money there is nothing in the world that any of you wouldn't do.
7-4.
Well, the ace on the board, a good thing for Phil Hellmuth. Not much for anyone else. Bottom pair there for both Phil Ivey and Tom Dwan, but not really enough to call any sizable bet. It's being led by Tom Dwan, though.
Well, Tom Dwan doesn't need much. He doesn't need an excuse to bet. And he's got a little piece of this, so he's going to put some money in that pot. And here
Phil
it is.
Hellmuth says all in.
All in.
We knew he wasn't going to need much to push his chips across the line. Ace with an 8 kicker, that's enough for him.
What is it?
Now the question is, gets back to Tom Dwan. Does he put him on the ace or does he put him on the flush draw?
10-4.
Is there any way that Tom Dwan calls this?
I very much doubt it.
Hellmuth started the hand with 57,000 chips, so he pushed in for about, I want to say about 47 more, maybe 45 more.
I'm disappointed. I
We're
thought
counting it out right now.
12,000.
So you over-raised the pot, buddy.
And another huge pot.
40.
That's the $1 million cash game. $81,000 pot.
42,700.
42,700 is the raise. Slightly more than the pot was. So he's not getting 2 to 1 his money here, Tom.
He's thinking about calling me with the 7.
I don't think he's going to call this.
Probably pick a better spot. He is getting 2 to 1 on his money. If he thinks there's a chance that Hellmuth could be pushing with a heart draw, he's trying to figure this out. Tom Dwan has fought so hard to get some of his chips back after falling behind.
Draw flush draw?
Ace 8 I have.
He's decided to call.
Yeah, he's called this. I think he thought there was a reasonable chance that maybe Hellmuth had
6.
a heart draw. Needs a queen or a 4, or Hellmuth's going to double up. It's a king on the river, and Hellmuth doubles through there.
Yeah.
$123,000 pot goes to Phil Hellmuth.
Really don't like the call from Tom.
7.
I think he should have left that one alone.
3 check.
Now we're playing the game, boys. Now we're playing the game.
See, that's why I don't book you, man. Because there's too many bad players in this game that might double you up.
And that is going to stem his loss just a little bit. Still down $176,000 though.
I love No Limit because No Limit's just a game of reads. I mean, it's a fly by the seat of your pants type of game, and you know, and you can play patiently, and then occasionally just get out there with like some crazy hand bluffing every street.
I think Phil Hellmuth will bring a lot of excitement to the table. He's very excitable, and he's a very controversial figure.
What a joke this is.
I expect him to do a lot of talking, and we'll see where that gets him.
A lot of the great poker players think that Phil Hellmuth's game is better left on the tournaments against Fish and not on the cash game, and hopefully that'll play out here again today against me anyway.
Plays a little differently than the rest of the high stakes cash players, I would say. But I guess it works for him. I mean, I don't know. I guess time will tell.
I don't play many cash games. I mean, occasionally I'm invited to Hollywood to play, and you know, when I played one night there, I won $340,000. I never even went back.
His ego will always be his downfall. If Phil would ever learn to control his ego, he's probably the best of all. He just needs to focus on the game and not be so egotistical, which is never going to happen.
You have like a movie, you know, and then you have your real life. And my movie's amazing. I'm hanging out with the world's biggest celebrities, actors, sports guys. You become, you know, famous around the world for being a poker brat. And I love it, and it's fun, but it's a persona. Is the desire to win, is the desire to be the best in the world, is the desire to be the best of all time in poker, and that's what I'm trying to do.